Hello students. Today we are going to learn about controlling process. We have already learned in our previous class what controlling is. Controlling is one of the important functions which are performed by the managers in an organization. Besides the function of controlling, we have also learnt about the function of planning, organizing, staffing, and directing. Before we move on to controlling process in detail, let us just recapitulate what controlling is and how we define controlling. Controlling ensures that activities in an organization are performed as per plans. It also ensures that all the resources are being used effectively and efficiently for the attainment of predetermined goals. Let us see what Coombs and O'Donnell have said about controlling. Managerial controlling implies the measurement of accomplishment against the standard and the correction of deviations to assure attainment of objectives according to plans. कून्स एंड ओडोनल ने अपने शब्दों में कहा है कि कंट्रोलिंग वो फंक्शन है जो कि एक्चुअल परफॉर्मेंस को मेजर करके स्टैंडर्ड्स के साथ कंपेयर करता है ताकि हमें डिविएशंस पता चल सके और कितना हम अपने ऑब्जेक्टिव्स को अचीव करने में सक्सेसफुल हुए हैं. आइए अब हम देखते हैं कि कंट्रोलिंग प्रोसेस है क्या. So now we are going to study in detail what is controlling process. Controlling process consists of 5 steps. The first step is setting performance standards. Step number 2, measuring actual performance. Third, compare performance against standard. Step number 4, analyzing deviations. And step number 5, taking corrective measures. अब हम आते हैं स्टेप नंबर 1 में और हम डिटेल में देखेंगे कि ये स्टेप नंबर 1 है क्या. फ्रेंड्स, स्टेप नंबर 1 इज सेटिंग परफॉर्मेंस स्टैंडर्ड्स. फर्स्ट लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड what is meant by standards. So standards are the criteria. They are the benchmark. So standards are the criteria against which actual performance would be measured. Standards को हम benchmarks भी कहते हैं और ये वो benchmark है जिसके तरफ organization move करता है. So standards serve as benchmarks towards which an organization strives to work. Standards can be set both in quantitative and qualitative terms. Let us now understand as to what is meant by quantitative terms. Quantitative standards are those which are shown with the help of figures. Examples would make it more clear. For example, cost to be incurred, revenue to be earned, product units to be produced and sold, time to be spent in performing a task. All these represent quantitative standards. Now let us discuss what is meant by qualitative standards. Qualitative standards are those which cannot be shown in forms of figures. improving goodwill, improving motivation level of employees. These are all examples of qualitative standards. Now, a certain points have to be kept in mind while setting these standards. At the time of setting standards, a manager should try to set standards in precise quantitative terms, as this would make their comparison with actual performance much easier. हम जानते हैं कि हम स्टैंडर्ड्स को क्वांटिटेटिव और क्वालिटेटिव टर्म्स दोनों ही टर्म्स में सेट कर सकते हैं, बट अगर हमें कंपैरिजन को आसान बनाना है तो एक मैनेजर को कोशिश करना चाहिए कि वो स्टैंडर्ड्स को क्वांटिटेटिव टर्म्स में सेट करे। और दूसरी बात जो ध्यान देने लायक है वो ये है कि स्टैंडर्ड्स शुड बी फ्लेक्सिबल इनफ टू बी मॉडिफाइड whenever required. So these are the 2 points which we have to keep in mind. Having learned the first step, that is setting of performance standards, we now move to step 2, which is measurement of actual performance. So once performance standards are set, the next step is measurement of actual performance. How do we measure performance? हम performance को कैसे measure करते हैं? Performance should be measured in objective and reliable manner. तो परफॉर्मेंस को मेजर करने के कई टेक्निक्स हैं। उनमें से कुछ टेक्निक्स आपके सामने स्क्रीन पर लिखे हुए हैं। पर्सनल ऑब्जर्वेशन, सैंपल चेकिंग, परफॉर्मेंस रिपोर्ट्स एंड अकाउंटिंग रेशियोज। Some points must be noted at this level also and see what they are. As far as performance should be measured in the same units in which standards are set, as this would make their comparison easier. हमें कोशिश ये करना है कि जब भी हम परफॉर्मेंस को मेजर कर रहे हैं तो उन्हें उन्हीं यूनिट्स में मेजर करें जिस टर्म में हमने स्टैंडर्ड्स को सेट किया है, और जहां तक हो सके हमें एक्चुअल वर्क को कब मेजर करना चाहिए? ड्यूरिंग इट्स परफॉर्मेंस। Now we come to step number 3, that is comparing actual performance with standards. When we compare actual performance with standards, it will reveal the deviation, that is the deviation between actual and desired results. हमें पता चलेगा कि हम अपने एक्चुअल रिजल्ट में कितना अपने टारगेट या स्टैंडर्ड जो हमने सेट किया था उससे डिविएट कर पाए हैं। कंपैरिजन हमारे लिए तब आसान हो जाता है जब हमने अपने स्टैंडर्ड्स को क्वांटिटेटिव टर्म्स में सेट किया है। ये एक एग्जाम्पल अब आपके सामने मैं रखूंगी जो कि इस कॉन्सेप्ट को और क्लियर कर देगा। परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ अ वर्कर in terms of units produced in a week can be easily measured against the standard output for a week. अगर हम standard output for a week सेट कर चुके हैं तो हम आसानी से एक वर्कर की प्रोडक्टिविटी को मेजर कर सकते हैं। अब हम अपने नेक्स्ट स्टेप की ओर बढ़ते हैं जो कि है स्टेप नंबर 4, एनालाइजिंग डेविएशंस। Some deviation in performance can be expected in all activities. It is therefore important to determine the acceptable range of deviations. So for this purpose, we make use of critical point control and management by exception. Now let us understand what is critical point control. Critical point control focuses on critical points What are these critical points? These are the key result areas. And these key result areas are critical to the success of an organization. अगर कोई भी गड़बड़ी या गलती इन क्रिटिकल पॉइंट्स में होती है तो पूरा का पूरा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सफर करता है. इसलिए ये वो एरियाज हैं जिनको कभी भी निग्लेक्ट नहीं करना चाहिए और इनको बहुत ही अर्जेंटली अटेंड करना चाहिए. एग्जाम्पल देखिए, इन अ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन an increase in 5% labor cost may be more troublesome than a 15% increase in postal charges. 15% increase in postal charges would be less troublesome. Why? Because it is just a simple expense. But if your labor cost is going to increase by 5%, it is going to have a long-term impact. A long-term impact, why? Because what will happen? The cost of production will go up, and if cost of production will go up, maybe there may be a possibility that the demand might fall, and on the long run you might lose your customers. So labor cost, increase in labor cost has to be attended more promptly as compared to increase in postal charges. Now we come to the next technique which is used by the managers is management by exception. Management by exception is also termed as controlled by exception. It is based on the principle that an attempt to control everything results in controlling nothing. So therefore, only significant deviations which go beyond the permissible limit should be brought to the notice of the management. Rest of the matters, the trifle matters or minor deviations, they can be looked after by small level managers. Now let us see some of the causes of deviation. Some of the possible causes of deviation may be unrealistic standards, defective process, inadequacy of resources, structural drawbacks, organizational constraints, and environmental factors. Something important to be noted, it is necessary to identify the exact cause or causes of deviations, failing which an appropriate corrective action might not be possible. The deviations and their causes are then reported and corrective action is taken at appropriate level. Having learned the fourth step, that is analyzing deviations, we now move ahead to the fifth step. The fifth step is taking corrective action. This is the final step, and no corrective action is required when the deviation is within acceptable limits. It is only when the deviations go beyond the acceptable range, especially in important areas, it demands immediate managerial attention so that deviations do not occur again and standards are accomplished. ये ध्यान रखने वाली बात है कि जब deviations acceptable range से आगे निकल जाते हैं, that is they are beyond the acceptable range, तभी हमें तुरंत क्या करना है? मैनेजरियल अटेंशन देना है ताकि फ्यूचर में फिर से ये डेविएशंस अकर ना हो. और अगर डेविएशन विद इन एक्सेप्टेबल रेंज है या एक्सेप्टेबल लिमिट्स है तो हमें किसी प्रकार की करेक्टिव एक्शन की जरूरत नहीं है. कुछ एग्जांपल्स देखिए. अगर डिफेक्टिव मटेरियल है कॉज ऑफ डेविएशन का तो हम क्या करेक्टिव एक्शन ले सकते हैं? हम क्वालिटी स्पेसिफिकेशन जो हम यूज कर रहे हैं उसे हम चेंज कर सकते हैं. सो चेंज द क्वालिटी स्पेसिफिकेशन फॉर द मटेरियल यूज्ड. If the cause of deviation is defective machinery, then we can repair the existing machine or replace the machine if it cannot be repaired. obsolete machinery, if that is the cause, then we can undertake technological upgradation of machinery. If the cause of deviation is a defective process, then we can modify the existing process. And finally, if the cause of deviation is defective physical condition of work, then the corrective action which can be taken is to improve the physical conditions of work. So those were a few examples of the possible causes of deviation and the corrective actions which can be taken. So let us recapitulate the steps in the controlling process. There are 5 steps in controlling process. Step number 1, setting performance standards. Step number 2, measuring actual performance. Third, comparing performance against standards. Fourth, analyzing deviations. And fifth, taking corrective measures. So children, I hope that you have thoroughly understood the controlling process. Now there are a few questions which you must attempt in your business studies notebook, and these are: question 1, state the steps in controlling. Question number 2, what is control by exception? Step number 3, explain critical point control. And fourth, what are standards? Also, I have designed a quiz for you which you can access through the above link. So thank you.